vlogging in the car is not as simple as it seems. First, you gotta get a suction cup so that your camera won't fall. Here we go, round 2 in a car. So I think today I want to talk about my journey, I guess, as a video / filmmaker. You know, where I came, what I've learned, and how I progressed, and you know, what are my goals from this point forward. And you know, hopefully that way you can kind of see the journey that I went, and maybe that could help any of you that's either starting out in the middle or at the same situation as I am, and you know, my thoughts on moving forward. So maybe that could help. And yeah, so let's see, let's take a drive and see where this conversation or where this episode takes us. But yeah, so a technical aspect of this particular car vlogging is that I have a suction cup and I have my DJI Osmo on it. I'm filming in the log setting, so I do color grade after when I put this together in post. But yeah, seriously, if thank you again for watching this channel, and I hope that you can like, comment, and subscribe if the content suits you. And if you just want to show your support, yeah, please like, comment, and subscribe. I will definitely do this more if I see consistency support, and you know, that gives me an indication that I guess my content is helping in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, I appreciate it. But anyway, so today I would like to talk about, I'm not going to give you my whole life story, if that's what you're thinking. Not my life story, but basically my, I guess my creative grind journey. I'll put it that way. So, as probably most of you wouldn't know, I am born and raised in the country of Malaysia. I was educated in Malaysia. And just to give you some context, I guess the creative drive started because if you grew up in the 90s in Malaysia, especially as a kid, if you are watching and you're from Malaysia and you grew up in the 90s, you probably know what I'm talking about. When we were growing up, there was only, I want to say 3 or 4 TV channels. We didn't have cable back then in the 90s. So we had TV1, TV2, and TV3. And I think the other one was called NTV7. And that was like, you know, I remember like half the time when you were watching NTV7, it was like those color bars that you see sometimes. So, and I remember vividly every Friday was movie night, in the sense where it was a Hollywood movie. And this was before Malaysia started to implement censorships, I think they didn't, at one point they didn't have a rating system too. So I remember there was always a Steven Spielberg movie from my recollection. Yeah, so I remember watching Jaws, I remember watching E.T., I remember watching Encounters with the Third Kind. I mean, yeah, and then I believe there was Indiana Jones too. I mean, it was a lot of Steven Spielberg heavy influence, I think, on me, especially because of how I grew up. It was because of the type of content I was watching. And then I remember Saturdays were always 8 o'clock in the morning. There was always cartoons. I think there was like the X-Men. I think right after the X-Men, there was, I think, My Little Pony. My Little Pony stays with me forever. There was Ultraman from Japan. And then we also grew up with every 5 p.m. in the evening, was it 6 p.m. I think, it was Doraemon. Yeah, so those are my, I guess, like the influences from back in the day, and that's, I guess, kind of like a trigger for me to kind of dabble into technology. And then I think my dad had these cassette players, or like Walkmans, I believe, that you can actually record your voice. So that was my first, I guess, dabble into like the hardware side of creativity, where I was actually recording like my own, I guess, radio, or like, I guess, my own version of a podcast back then. And I used to like clip like different clips in between, and try to basically edit out or like make my own version of a script and like record it in pieces. So that was like my first dabble into like editing per se. So then I think when I was probably into high school was when I wanted to, I guess my creative drive was more intense and more like out there. I joined a band. I started, a very strong music influence, and through listening to different types of music from what my parents listened, from what I was interested in. And we're talking about like late 90s, early 2000s. So you're talking about the Limp Bizkits, the Rage Against the Machines, the Nirvanas, the Blink 182s. Like those were the influence, and the music videos at the time was very influential of how I viewed a lot of my creative art. And that was also when Malaysia, I think we already had I think Astro was our first so-called cable, like equivalent to cable TV. Like we had more than one channel, so there was more influence in the terms of creativity. And then from there I started, diving into like audio, basically making music. So I used to get like this bootleg, I think it was called Magic Music Maker, and using that to kind of create like synths, synthetic music or synths, and then using those to make different beats, and understanding like the layering process. And then I think from there, that's when I my mom asked me the question, like, what do you want to do, and after you graduate from high school? And then I did say something in the creative field. And back then in Malaysia, there was not really much of an option or choice. So my parents, they were, I'm fortunate enough that they wanted to send me to, abroad to kind of pursue, my studies in, I guess, the creative section. So there was a program at Inti College. At the time it was called Inti College, and believe now it's called Inti University. And they had a US, I guess, transfer program. So my focus when I went into there was getting into mass communication, a mass communication major, as a general mass communication major. And then from there, in college in Malaysia, I did my first music video, with my buddy, rest in peace, man. He passed away a couple of years ago. And, he was the one who kind of like introduced me. Like, I guess he was making music videos when he was in high school at the time. And, he had a mini DV cam, and he started using that. I started getting involved in that creative process. We made our first music video. And then we both we transferred our credits to university in St. Cloud, Minnesota. And that's where he got more into advertising, and I got more into TV broadcasting, and I minored in film as well. So that was my journey to the United States. And then from there, I swallowed everything like a sponge. Like I got basically, I learned Final Cut. I got into TV broadcasting with the local TV station within the university there. I learned Avid Express. I learned, there's so many things. They had a very good program there that kind of gives you an all-rounder perspective into TV broadcasting and film at the time. and then working with different types of cameras. I was lucky to actually be a part of that program, and it was a very amazing program, and I had a very amazing advisor, Gregory Martin. Shout out to you. And also, he was the one that actually gave me contact to intern at this company called DMR. I'm not sure if they're still around, but that's where I learned real life production value, basically, because I went on different shoots. I would call it commercial shoots. I think I did a pie commercial. I was like a PA. I did. There was I think there was a production where they were shooting, I believe, from a helicopter, on the quarry in Minnesota, and basically learning like a sponge in that experience. And then once I finished that internship, at that time, my girlfriend, now wife, she was in Hawaii, so I decided to move to Hawaii as well. And once I moved here, I was like, holy crap, I do not know anybody here. But one thing that I was really appreciative coming from St. Cloud State University is the fact that there was a class on networking. So it was basically very insightful to know how, basic networking skills, talking to people, how to talk to people, and at that time, sending out a resume, doing the follow-ups, and basically I did all of the basic 101 of networking in Hawaii. And truth be told, it doesn't work that way in Hawaii. Hawaii is very different from what I've learned in St. Cloud State, Minnesota, but the foundation was there, right? So then, oddly enough, a lot of things in Hawaii are kind of like word of mouth. So, just basically being a nice person, going out, meeting people, networking in different types of events. And, from there, sending out my resumes and whatnot. And then I finally got a contract job or a contractor gig with a company called Crane Media. And they were a local wedding video company here. Shout out to James Chun. He's now Oahu Wedding Officiant, I believe is his handle on Instagram. And he was basically the one that gave me my first, I guess, official professional job as a videographer. And the first thing he asked me is like, hey, do you know how to use this mini DV camera? And luckily, that was the same camera that I used back in college. I was like, yes, perfect. I remember it was a JVC. It was a JVC mini DV camera, and I used that to shoot my first professional shot down the aisle. And I was getting that last kiss shot, the 3-shot during a wedding. So I remember that very vividly, and it was at the Kamehameha Chapel in Kamehameha Schools. So yeah, that was my first professional job. And then, from there, I met Lawrence Medeiros from, Waikiki Weddings. I think that's what his company's called. And then from there, I, networked to learn, just kind of get involved in different wedding circles. So officiants, florists, wedding planners, and I did that for approximately about 3 years. So I think one thing that I could definitely take away is that once you graduate from college and going to be out in the field, it's like being born again, basically, because it's not the same. It's definitely not the same. What you learn in college and what you're going to learn in practical life is so different. It's like literally starting from scratch. And I think from my point of view, the fact that I was comfortable enough to talk in a group of people, I am still an introvert, I believe. But when it comes to talking to people, I've never shied away from just having a regular conversation or small talk with anyone. So I think that kind of helped me, maneuver in the wedding side of Hawaii, until I did not know this about Hawaii at the time, but at the time, probably the biggest wedding market, as I thought, was the local wedding market. But then I realized that, why there's so many like couples like shooting by the beach, and they don't look like they're from here. They're from Japan. And then I remember there was I think not an open call, but like a job opening at this company called Propeller USA. And, they were describing themselves as a Japanese video production company. They do, I think majority of their work is Japanese weddings, but they also do commercials as well in the Japanese market. And, they are hiring a shoot and editor. So I asked I think we were married at the time already. And then I asked her, hey, what about this? And she was like, hey, Japanese companies, they really treat you good. So you should go, and try and apply. So I did. And this is one thing that I really took away from that networking class in St. Cloud, is that when you if you know the address of your the places that you're applying, you should actually, instead of like emailing the resume, like make it a point to actually go to their office and give it to the person there. And that's what they call a good first impression. So I was like, why not? So I looked up their address on Google. Oh no, it was MapQuest at the time. And then went to their office and gave them the resume. And I only found out, like, I think a year into getting hired at Propeller, that Rizki-san, my boss, and he's now my friend, said that you're the only one that came up to our office and handed me your resume. I was like, and he said that was like a good first impression. I was like, wow, that's great. Like that's what I learned in college, man. Like, so yeah, that was my journey at Propeller. And I think I credit a lot of, I guess, where I am now to joining Propeller. One, because from there I learned to be like super extra crazy efficient. And the reason why I say this is because when I was working in the local wedding market in Hawaii, it was a weekend thing. Like you would shoot on weekends, and occasionally you'll shoot on the weekdays. But the turnaround time for those weddings were like 2 to 3 months. I mean, and you also are talking about like, creating videos that were, you're shooting from like probably morning to like evening, and you're turning those around in like 2 to 3 months. But when I joined Propeller, I didn't know that because there was so many weddings happening in a day, it was literally happening like by the hour. So, and you're talking about like volumes of like, just to give you a context. So I remember local weddings was like, okay, in a month, you'll probably shoot like, so 4 weekends out of the month, right? So on a busy month, you'll do 8, right? But in the Japanese wedding market, you might do 2 in a day for 7 days straight. And some of the packages were like, you shoot that day, you edit that day, and you deliver them the next day. That's how fast the turnaround was. And then I was like under the impression that, it's like a factory, it's like a cookie cutter, right? But no, one thing that sets, I guess at the time, Propeller USA apart from other companies was that we designed it in a way where the edits had to be different from your previous. So you were pushed in a way to like create something different every time. And that was the hard part because, just think about it. You're shooting every day, almost every day. They give you 2 days off a week. You're shooting almost every day in the sun sometimes for the most part. You're tired. Come back, you gotta edit this wedding. and then you gotta deliver, make sure everything is, everything is good to go for delivery. And that's where, the I guess the burnout happened, right? So that was like a super huge learning curve for me. But I was with Propeller for I think about 12 years, and I think for a year, I think I only got adjusted till after a year was when I got into like, okay, this became normal for me, shooting every day, editing every day, and delivering it like 2 days after or a day after. So that was a grind. That made me efficient. That made me learn a lot of like keyboard shortcuts, a lot of processes during filming or editing. I learned to be more efficient and like find ways to do things a little bit faster. So that environment allowed me to create that efficiency that I still possess till today. So that in that sense, I'm so forever grateful to that experience over there. But the other thing that I learned at Propeller USA was I had an opportunity, I think like maybe 2 to 3 years into the company, to train the new recruits. So that experience also made me learn how to teach, right? Learn how to find talent, at the same time make them learn in a way that can be efficient enough to do the same grind that I do. So that too was another learning curve for me as well. Obviously in the beginning, you're trying to learn how to teach concepts, teach basic shooting, basic editing, basic customer service. That by itself, it's a learning curve. But because I did it on a regular basis, again, just like how I got used to being able to shoot on a high volume, edit on a high volume, and deliver on a high volume, because I was doing it in quite consistently, I learned how to teach in a way where whoever that was passionate about learning or being in that industry can actually survive in the industry, basically. So it wasn't the easiest thing for me. I would say, like, it was very stressful, actually, making sure that whoever that is recruited gets up to par, but also whoever that is not up to par, that they have to be let go. So it was a very, fruitful as well as also stressful part of that area. But another thing that I learned at Propeller USA was, again, that coming back to the whole networking aspect of, learning how to be around people, and, I guess looking at different business opportunities. One thing that I was entrusted with is to try to get more commercial work, so non-wedding related work. And through, different networking events, different different commercial shoots I was on, I was able to network and get a pretty decent amount of clientele that till today I still maintain the relationships with them. So and through those commercial shoots, that's when I learned how to become a director. I learned how to become a producer. I learned how to become basically taking elements that I've learned back in college, elements that I've learned on theory, on paper, and kind of implementing it in these commercial shoots that I went on. And through Propeller as well, I've traveled to different countries, whether it be Japan. I went to Indonesia to do different commercial shoots for the company as well, wedding related mainly. But that gave me insights into like the budgeting aspects of it, the client relation, the working with a creative director, being the creative director, working with in different languages, working with places where there's 3 or 4 spoken languages, and like finding a common ground. So there's a lot of it was a really hard grind, but I think the flower that bloomed out of it was the fact that I got to experience a whole roundedness of the production aspect, the pre-production aspect, and not so much of the post-production, because that was pretty much on me to kind of produce that quality of product that they could use to sell more wedding packages, right? So I was fortunate enough in that sense to kind of experience that. So I think like my years at Propel USA was kind of like where I grew so much as a creator, and I also developed different skills where I was able to be a non-creator. I was more, organizing as a producer, directing more shoots, organizing teams, training new people, new members in the teams. But yeah, that was I would say where it was like the academy the academy version in soccer, basically, of where your growth spurt in terms of being a creator should kind of shine or kind of grow. So yeah, forever grateful to be a part of that organization, and as well as forever grateful to keeping those relationships still going till to this day. But yeah, I think I'm gonna make this a 2-part series, because I think there's a lot more to talk to about the journey. There's definitely more growth after the fact that I was at Propel USA, but basically the main things that I've learned throughout that experience, from my growing up in Malaysia, high school, college, and getting my creative growth at Propel USA, is that one, again, I think I said this a lot. If you have the passion for it, you will learn, and your talent will grow. That's definitely number 1. 2, if you're talented, you still need to know the right people. So even though you're an introvert like myself, I think you just need to hit a switch, turn it off, and then be a front-facing person of yourself, to sell yourself, to be okay to talk to people, and it's a struggle sometimes for me, I like to be at home, I like to chill at home, sometimes I don't really like to go out, but because of the nature of what I do, I still need to be face fronting, being my brand, my personal brand. I need to be James Yahamra to make sure that I keep growing as a creator, and I keep getting more work as a videographer / filmmaker. So yeah, I think that was my biggest takes from that, I guess, the first half of my creative journey. So yeah, I'm gonna cut it at this point and say this is part 1 of my journey, of my creative grind journey, and see you in my next one, which is the part 2 of my creative grind journey. And I'm hoping that it won't be in a car next time. I'm hoping it's gonna be in my house, at the table, set up with lights. But we'll see. Again, if it doesn't happen, then it has to be in the car. But yeah, I hope part 1 is going to be some form of a guidance. Part 2, there's definitely more stories to talk about in part 2. And I hope, again, this video will kind of give you insights or give you different perspectives that would help you basically on your creative grind, creative journey. So keep creating, everyone. Keep doing what you're doing. be passionate about it, and always grow your talent. And yeah, see you on the next one. Oh, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And join me for next week for the next one. Peace.